There's no doubt that science has helped us make huge advancements, cure awful illnesses, and lengthen our lives. In the novel Frankenstein, written by Mary Shelley, she opens the door to what science is capable of doing. This novel is a warning to modern science because we do not consider the dangerous possibilities that the fanatical scientists can do with their discoveries and their possible negative consequences, such as cloning. The novel Frankenstein is definitely a warning about modern science. In the book, the author warns us about the risks of not considering the possible consequences of a new discovery. Frankenstein realizes this after his creation killed his little brother.
Nothing in human shape could have destroyed that fair child. He was the murderer.
Of course, Frankenstein could not foresee the possible aftermath of bringing a being to life. This caused him to lose his beloved family members, his sanity, and ultimately his life. This somber situation could have been avoided if only he could have been able to take a step back and fully understand the situation and the possible outcomes. Despite the author's warnings, we have already witnessed the consequences of not doing the proper research on a new discovery.
Despite evidence of its ineffectiveness and danger, it continues to be prescribed to pregnant women beyond 1971, when the first link between DES and a rare form of vaginal cancer, clear cell adenocarcinoma, was formally established in Boston, Massachusetts. Even though this drug was given to pregnant women decades ago, it affects and continues to affect millions of families today and possibly for many years to come.
DES was a pill that was prescribed to pregnant women with the intention of reducing the risks of miscarriages in the 70s. However, this pill contained a synthetic form of estrogen, which led to the infants having multiple health issues, and then they passed that down to their kids without knowing the cause. This is a classic example of mass producing a drug without doing the proper tests and research for better and faster profit. Like Mary Shelley demonstrated in her book, if we jump on board with something that we know very little about, it can have disastrous consequences. Another warning Mary Shelley warned us about was the dangers of fanatism. According to Merriam-Webster, a fanatic is somebody who is extremely passionate about a subject to an unhealthy extent, and who believes that it is a righteous cause. The author demonstrates this through her main character, Frankenstein. He's completely engrossed in his work to the point where he neglects his own health.
I did not remark how very ill you appear. So thin, so pale, you look as if you have been watching for several nights.
His physical description depicts a man who hasn't eaten or slept in days. Frankenstein's fanatism physically pushed him to the edge. This would later prove to have disastrous effects for everyone that he loves most. This confirms that science fanatics are a danger to our society because they believe they have the power to change the natural order of things. And like I mentioned in my previous paragraph, it has a long-lasting and damaging consequences. However, the dangers of fanatics have also been ignored. Sadly, the citizens of today's society don't realize the grave danger that is this fanatic scientist.
From 1933 to 1945, Nazi Germany carried out a campaign to cleanse Germany's society of individuals viewed as a biological threat to the nation's health. Enlisting the help of physicians and medically trained geneticists, psychiatrists, and anthropologists, the Nazis developed racial health policies that began with the mass sterilization of genetically diseased persons and ended with the near inhalation of European Jewry. With the patina of legitimacy provided by racial science experts, the Nazi regime carried out a program of approximately 40,000 forced sterilizations, over 2,700 euthanasias, death that found its most radical manifestation in the death of millions of racial enemies in the Holocaust.
Mary Shelley tried to warn us of the dangers of fanatical scientists. However, the Nazi regime had fanatical scientists whose duty was to perform experiments on innocent victims in order to further the Aryan race. These experiments from the fanatical scientists had dangerous consequences, and so did the actions of Frankenstein, who was a fanatic of his work. An additional theme that can be taken away from this novel is the dangers of cloning. In her novel, Frankenstein was successful in creating life in his laboratory.
My candle was nearly burnt out when, by the glimmer of a half-extinguished light, I saw the dull yellow eye of a creature open. It breathed hard, and a conclusive motion agitated its limbs.
By doing this, he skipped thousands of millions of years worth of evolution. This means that it takes a long time for creating life, and therefore Frankenstein's creature can only be flawed. Currently, most of our food is genetically modified to augment the crop's yield and to destroy bug infestation.
There are genetically modified plants that can repel only the very particular type of insect that feeds on it.
The implementation of using GMOs in our food system has been very controversial. We are now seeing the repercussions of using that.
People believe that altering the DNA of a plant or animal has a significant effect on a person's chance of developing cancer.
Further, the use of the herbicide Roundup has only increased because the insects and the weeds have become tolerant towards the GMOs. There are also some people who believe that as a long-term side effect, GMOs can cause cancer.
People believe that altering the DNA of a plant or animal has a significant effect on a person's chance of developing cancer.
We can only notice a similarity between Frankenstein. By him creating a creature, not knowing the long-term effects, in the end, it created a disaster for him.
But this feeling, which supported me in the commencement of my career, now serves only to plunge me lower in the dust. All my speculations and hopes are nothing, and like the archangel who aspired to omnipotence, I am chained to an eternal hell.
There can only be an analogy made between Frankenstein and the genetically modified plants. By mass producing these plants without conclusively knowing the long-term side effects, it can also yield a disaster. In the end, Mary Shelley demonstrates the tragedies that science created for the main character. However, the novel does have some truth to it. Since science is often heard by going awry, over time the world has witnessed fanatical scientists and the repercussions on life, and it cannot be overlooked the possible impact of GMOs might have on our population.